Order. What is the date for the 12th? On the 12th of October 2023. Anyone have anything for the good of the order before we get into our business? All right, that's a no. Roll call, that's been taken.
Gershman, Hanson, and yourself?
Yeah, we're missing 2 commissioners this morning. I'm not sure, Steve's got some issue to deal with, Steve Meek, and Bill Pinker has COVID, which... You know, why me?
It's be that kind of day.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, public comment period. Is there a member of the public who wants to comment? It appears not. Administer the oath of office for interim fire chief Clements. Do you agree to be chief and to do everything you're supposed to?
Yes, sir.
I think we're finished with that.
Now you've done this a time or two. Raise your right hand and then state your name.
Jody Clements.
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
Do solemnly swear I support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the municipal code of the City of Marshfield,
and the municipal code of the City of Marshfield,
and will perform these duties
and will perform these duties
to which I have been selected
to which I have been selected
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my abilities.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Jody, you have sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin. I'll assume you've read the Constitution of the United States. Have you read the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin?
Just so you understand, I know this has always been a question of yours, and the answer is yes.
Really?
Yeah, I looked it up.
Congratulations.
I looked it up. I'm not going to tell you I read it word for word, but I knew this was coming.
Yeah, I was asked to do that one time, and actually it was in North Dakota, and I asked the person who was, I said, I've not read the Constitution of North Dakota. Would you get me a copy and let me read it before I swear? I couldn't find one. Yeah, and
You need to shut that door.
the Constitution of the State of North Dakota is very long. As a member of the Board of Directors of the Foundation at the University of North Dakota, did you know that every higher ed institution is in the Constitution, so they can't close it?
Not until you told me that. So I appreciate that.
North Dakota, with 600,000 and some population, has 11 institutions of higher ed.
Good. Including the flagship University of North Dakota.
They're not an R1. When you tell me they're an R1, then they'll be a flagship.
Okay.
North Dakota State is an R1. That means it's categorized as a research university, which is status-wise higher than the University of North Dakota. See, he's on the board for the second tier institution.
The fire department?
That's hard.
That was actually pretty good. All right, and congratulations.
Thank you.
That's an important thing to do in your life, to take an oath like that. You're responsible for a major part of the city's safety. And thank you for your effort there. Approval of the minutes of the September 14th, 2003 regular meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Any corrections or changes to those minutes? Hearing none, call the question. No, we have to have a roll call. No, all right. I'll be darned. I thought we had to have a roll call. Anyway, all in favor of the motion to approve those minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Passes, carries, whatever. That's all right. I guess it's done. Review and approve page, what is it? Proposed 2024 ambulance. What? Oh, we've got another 7 minutes. I have the wrong glasses. Minutes of the October 4th, 2023 Joint Fire Police Commission and Common Council meeting.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Any corrections or changes? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying
Aye.
Aye.
same sign if you oppose. Motion carries. Okay, we're at item 7. Review and approve proposed 2024 ambulance service contracts presented by account manager Munger.
Mr. President, could we please, I believe I just seen him pull in. Could we move to the next item, please?
No. I love simple questions. You can say no and it's done, right?
Could be.
I will ask him why he's late.
You are the president.
I did it to students. Actually, I would lock the door.
He's actually coming in right this second.
No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this as he walks in.
Sorry, everybody. Have to drop my kids off. Wife's a teacher.
Well, that's no excuse. That's an explanation.
Okay.
Don't make me mention.
What do you want to know?
As chair, I love jerking chains.
Okay.
Yeah. Review and approve proposed 2024 ambulance service contracts presented by account manager Munger.
Yes. So we decided to stick with the 3.4% August CPI rate. It's the Midwest Index. So we've done inflation factors before for increases on contracts. This is for the 13 townships if you're not familiar with them. We have we extend service to those different townships and for EMS at least. And what ends up happening is they pay us in a contract. Usually it's 2 payments, once early on in the year, once later. So the total of those contracted payments, I think, were around $445,000 in that range. And then with a 3.4% increase, it's going up to close to $460,000. So we decided to go based on the CPI instead of based on increasing budgeted expenses. Based on the transfer, we didn't want to over penalize the townships. Also because, like we said, with the reduced staffing, we didn't discount them either, so we wouldn't increase that township contract. And then I guess from the talks with Jody and Steve and Everett, August CPI was essentially the rate that we chose.
Have we looked at comparables, other fire departments who are serving out communities, and how do we compare?
Have I looked at them? No. From the standpoint of whether or not we're giving a comparable rate, I don't really know how to compare us, given I guess every fire district is probably a little bit different. But no, we've basically gone on a historical basis. This is what we have been charging. The rates, as far as inflation, are increasing by this much, and this is the new rate.
Okay.
I think I can add to that, Andy, because I have compared most fire departments that provide EMS to surrounding communities have moved to a per capita rate. We have looked at that, but essentially per capita rate for a lot of services around the state and what we're currently charging are about the same right now.
Okay. Per capita means if you've got the town of Lincoln, you look at the population of the town of Lincoln and charge so much a head.
Correct. We try and figure out an appropriate cost per person and then look at population, and that's what the cost would be.
So we actually are doing it that way then.
We are not. We've looked at it. We have not.
But the cost is similar as well.
It's similar, correct.
So my follow-up question is, if we're using CPI, shouldn't we use some form of medical inflation rate? I mean, I'm just asking the question, because part of the CPI, that does include some things, but is it relevant to the medical services that you provide? That's what my follow-up is to you.
Yeah, the way we currently calculate it was started years ago with when Amy was account manager. Finance is always kind of directed on what to use for CPI because I'm not an accounting person. And I thought medical was part of it at one point in time, but I'm not sure.
I just think there's multiple ways to measure inflation in terms of, what type of service that you're providing. And I just wonder if that's been looked at in the past. And I had a brief conversation with Mr. Munger just about, how we do price out the services. And you did answer about per capita. I think 3 questions I have for you is, are we getting any pushback from the townships in terms of the charges that we're giving them? Second, do we break them in terms of calls and revenue per township? I mean, if you actually just say, well, this town of Rock has this much activity. I'm just kind of curious on what level of detail we look into it, because part of it is, when I talked to him on the phone, he said, really, there was a rhyme or reason to how they priced it in the past, and we've gotten better at that, I think, Steve, a lot. But that's what my question is for you.
Yeah, so the past, when I took over and the accounting manager at the time of the city left about the same time, there wasn't a clear description on how it was done when he was there. My understanding was it included factors such as square mileage, number of calls, and such like that. So that formula we kind of used as we used our base and switched over to the CPI model at that point in time. So as far as number of calls, for example, back then we had one small community that also had a nursing home in it. My personal belief, they were being overcharged because we were going to that nursing home, nothing to do with the community or the departments over there, but because we were going there so much, their cost was higher. Since switching to this new model, that has been rectified.
Because I know in the past that you brought up, I'm sorry to ask all these questions, you brought up like when township was actually evaluating other options, and they couldn't come up with a better option, right? I think
yeah, most of the time, as far as pushback goes, I know years ago before I took this position, there's been some questions. Since I've been here, really there hasn't been. They understand that cost of providing service goes up each year, and then we're trying to keep it at a reasonable amount.
But you think you're covering our costs?
Yes, I mean, absolutely.
And looking at right now, professional services, medical services on that same index is at 3.2, so 3.4%. It's very in line. Yeah. But yeah, I'm familiar with using medical care CPI because it sometimes does.
Yeah. I'm not so sure in the past that we didn't at least look at that. And yeah. So also you're looking at Medicare reimbursements too. That's the only questions I got. Thank you.
That's the difficulty with Medicare as well. It doesn't really increase significantly. I mean, it's been a little bit of an uptick this year, I think I've seen, but not much. So I know that we participated in the survey in 2022, which all ground ambulance services have to do. It's kind of an analysis of whether or not Medicare is covering the costs of ambulance services, which I believe everybody would probably say no. But, yeah. So we're hoping that yields some information, but to your point about do we look at medical care CPI, it was right about in line. It's just more about the breadbasket as far as, I mean, it's not just medical supplies that we also are offering. We also have to cover utilities and gas and electric and everything else like that. But it's a good point. Should we be looking at them in comparison? Because I have seen differences back when I worked in the clinic where there is, a 1% to 2% difference in medical care CPI versus all items.
And medical's been less and sometimes substantially more, 2-3%.
Yeah.
So, I think the big thing is just have confidence in your process. And Steve explained, how you're pricing out the services. That makes me feel better because, in the past, I think we did probably the best job of that.
I'm quite sure I heard you say that basically a medical CPI is going to be a bit higher than the general CPI.
It can. It's not that it is always, because right now I'm looking at professional services. There's medical care commodities at 4.2, medical care services at negative 0.9, and professional services at 3.2. So I don't know if they have a typo here up in theirs, but it says it's a flat rate from August 2022, meaning 0% increase, but I think that's a little weird. I can send you the chart and I can send you the link to look at it.
You don't need to do that.
Okay.
I just want to be very clear that obviously I'm very confident in these numbers and these are defendable, thought process. Can we change, later in methodology on how we charge and everything? Well, of course, we have some questions out there on the common council level on what we should be doing with some of this stuff, but I believe this is a solid.
Steve brought up a really interesting point that we're per capita. And listen, you don't have loads of time to look at this, but that would be a reasonable question from somebody in the city of Marshfield saying, what is a city citizen paying per capita for our care as compared to the townships, right? And the only reason I ask that question, and I know it takes really copious amount of time, is I think from the standpoint of a citizen, you just want to make sure that you're not subsidizing these outside areas with our tax dollars and our process. I mean, I want to help people, but we also have to look at that too. And if you think that's reasonable, at some point, I'd love to see your presentation on that.
Yeah, actually, I can actually show you that we've had those conversations. We've run those numbers. Obviously, for the purposes of negotiating contracts, we're not talking numbers out in public, but I can tell you that it's less than the townships.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you looked at that. I appreciate that. And I think the public will be glad to hear that too. I mean, I think that's meaningful. I'll make a motion to approve.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion, we have a second to approve proposed 2024 ambulance service contracts as presented by Mr. Munger. Is there any additional discussion of that motion? Roll call, please.
Gershman,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Thank you. That was good information for us and for the public. Item 8, discuss and approve emergency medical services billing rates for 2024.
As you see in your packet, 8A was an email from Deputy Chief Bacus to the commissioners explaining this process. And I'll let Steve expound on it.
So in years past, we've been with LifeQuest Billing since 2017. Each year they put out a rate study, which the commission has seen, comparing our rates with departments that are approximately like size. Over the last year, LifeQuest Billing was bought out and has been merging with EMSMC. Larger company, some different ways of doing things. To the benefit, the companies are looking at how they each do things and they're taking the best of the both worlds, really. So EMSMC does things a little bit different. They don't do an actual rate study. What they do is they look at your rates and compare it to Medicare rates. And they try to keep it at a specific rate related to Medicare. When looking at our rates this year, they recommended that we stay right where we're at. We're in a good position. So they didn't recommend any rate increase. Speaking with finance, they also agreed. One of the benefits of not increasing rates means that we don't also increase our write-offs. So that's what we're recommending, is no increase in our rates.
So Steve, it's a multiplier of the Medicare rate, right? So if Medicare pays $210 for an ambulance call, for X number percentage above that.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought it was, but I'm not pretty sure.
So what you're really asking for is an approval of medical service rates, emergency medical service rates at a level that is...
To keep them at our current level.
Yeah, same as last year.
Yes. Yeah. so we all understand what you're asking for here.
And in the past, Steve, there were some years we have not increased the rates. That's correct, isn't it?
I believe there was 1 year we didn't increase. We might have increased one item, and I was thinking with mileage.
Okay.
Otherwise, previous years, we generally increased everything.
Okay.
Yeah, and just a good indication of what happens when you do increase rates. So the last time we increased them significantly, I think was early 2022 or for 2022. And the overall payment to charge ratio went from 40% down to like 38%. So really what you're doing is when you do a sizable uptick, you're just increasing that discount ratio.
Yeah, right.
And so, I mean, you are gaining a small margin on your commercial patients, but the amount of patients that you have that are commercial are around roughly 20% of your mix. So and that's dependent upon whether or not those contracts cover fully 100% of the charge.
So really, you're really, by increasing the rates, you're getting very little additional revenue, just increasing the charge.
Yeah, and I mean, we also have a significant amount of self-pay calls. Actually, I should back that up instead. Number of call percentage for commercial patients is around 8 to 9%. So you really reduced mix that's even targetable.
Yeah, so the private pay people,
Yeah.
such a small percentage.
Yeah.
And it's probably even going to get smaller, right, Steve?
Not worth mentioning.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, second.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is to approve emergency medical service billing rates for 2024 in your packet. Basically, there is no change. We need a roll call.
Gershman?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Keo?
Yes.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming so early in the morning.
No worries. Apologize for being late.
Good that you brought the laptop. Thank you.
Do you have all of the parts of the city budget at your fingertips like you just did here?
What do you want to know?
Thank you. No, I don't want to know anything. I just want to know if you're that good.
I try.
A report on crimes against children presented by Detective
Barris.
Is it Barris?
Yep.
You know, there are a number of ways to spell and say Barris. You know the guy who customized cars? George Barris? It's not spelled this way.
You get the Batmobile.
Not related.
Not really. So I'm just here, I was asked here just to give a brief report about internet crimes against children. I spent probably 6.5 years in the school as a school resource officer at the high school, and 2 years as a detective. This last year diving into more internet crimes against children. Lieutenant Jason Parks used to investigate these until he was promoted, and then since then I have taken over those responsibilities. It's big shoes to fill. He's been doing that for a long time, and he was really good at what he does. So I'm hoping to continue that. So basically, we get several investigations, multiple investigations a month regarding internet crimes against children. And it can range from, I'm giving a broad overview here, but it can range from child pornography, which we're trying to change. The exact term now is child sexual assault material. We don't want to call it child pornography anymore, but it's called child sexual assault material. We investigate that, possession of it, other internet crimes like trafficking, missing children, things called sextortion, where kids are extorted online to provide photos of themselves. So we investigate a number of those, and throughout the year, that's a primary focus of my investigations right now. A big help with those investigations is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. It's called NCMEC for short. It's a national clearinghouse that was established in the 90s. And they get what are called cyber tips, essentially.
Those cyber tips are provided to them by, can be any kind of electronic service provider, whether it be Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Google, Bing from Microsoft, things like that. So if anybody is looking at that kind of material or downloading or sharing that kind of material, it gets flagged by those service providers and sent to NECMEC, where then they determine where that goes for the investigation. So they try to figure out what area of the country that is coming from, and then they send it to the appropriate jurisdictions. And then from there on, that gets sent to us. If it is in our jurisdiction, then we investigate that. Since NECMEC was founded, they've had millions of cyber tips throughout the years, and the amount of cyber tips that they get throughout the years only is growing due to the amount of material out there. The material is, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry for child sex trafficking and child sexual exploitation. This country alone is probably around $50 billion spent on that kind of material, spent on those kind of resources to get that material. So it's a big investigatory process to try to figure out who's using it, where it's coming from. And we're a part of the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. That's a national task force where we can look into a database where we can find other investigators that are doing the same thing and reach out to them if they're if they're in a different jurisdiction, if they're encountering the same thing. So we have, a national database that we can basically reach out to other investigators on this matter and try to help investigate it and share information with each other. That's a very broad overview of what I do. And I've had, since probably a year of doing this, I've had multiple investigations regarding child sexual assault material, and have current investigations right now that I'm looking into with cyber tips that I've just gotten. So it's an ongoing process, and it takes a lot of time to try to figure out where these incidents are coming from the city of Marshfield, but it is out there. So.
Well, thank you. Questions?
A lot of that is interagency too, the FBI and other agencies they work with, right?
Yeah, if it does, it can turn into a federal case depending on if they are sharing it across state lines. Another thing that we investigate too is like traveling cases. If a female is talking to somebody online from a different state and they're coming to the city to kind of have a relationship with that juvenile, that can turn into a federal case as well, as they're traveling across state lines to facilitate a sex crime. So, we have resources with the FBI, and we work with the Department of Criminal Investigations. That's the state. The state division that runs, it's from the DOJ runs it. So if we need additional help with the state of Wisconsin, DCI helps us too. They have DCI special agents that can help us as well with that kind of resource if it does become kind of a bigger operation with that stuff.
Thank you.
Chris, you got anything?
Do I have anything?
Yeah. Question?
I don't have any questions. Just, it's kind of amazing how much crap is out there and what it takes to find these people.
Yeah, it's a brutal thing, and we have to classify the images and determine whether or not it falls within the range of the child material. So it's a hard thing to do, but in the end, it's worth it, trying to make sure that these people aren't there doing that stuff anymore, victimizing people anymore.
These cases, when we do arrest, we identify and arrest a suspect or go to arrest them, are growing increasingly more and more dangerous because child abusers do not have good prison time. And with the courts being more strict about providing prison time to these people, they are becoming more and more aggressive when they know that they're going to be arrested. So we're coming across that here in our city from time to time as well.
Is there any education to the kids to help them recognize, hey, this isn't a good
Yep.
a good interaction with this person to, work with student officers.
Yep.
So bring that forward and turn that person in and, hey, I'm being exploited here.
Right. Yeah. We try to be as proactive as you can in the community. We'll talk to the schools. The schools are pretty good about having us come in and do internet crimes presentations to various grades. And thankfully, NECMEC does have a program called NetSmarts, which is geared towards any kind of grade that you want. So, from kindergarten and up, they have presentations that you can give to each class. And it's simplified the younger they get, but it teaches them what to do if they do feel like they're victimized, telling a trusted adult about it, that you're not in trouble for doing this kind of stuff or for getting involved in this stuff, because as teenagers, it can be pretty embarrassing to get involved in this stuff.
Absolutely.
Because I've ran into a number of cases where they're exploited online, and the person could be from a different country saying, if you don't send me more of these photos of yourself, I'm going to send these to all your family members and all your friends on your contact list. If you don't give me money, if you don't give me gift cards or anything like that, I'm going to blast this all over everything. So these kids freak out and they end up sending money. But that NetSmarts program and our presentations do help them understand that they're not in trouble for doing this kind of thing and that they need to report this to somebody because they can be further exploited. Maybe even like within their own school or within their own community by somebody within the community asking them for that kind of stuff. So there are programs all the way up to adulthood. I just gave a presentation at the library geared towards adults and how they can help their kids and what to expect with their kids regarding internet crimes, staying safe online, making sure that they have communication with their kids, because that's the main thing, is communicating with your kids about this kind of stuff. You want to make sure that your kids know that they can talk to you, as embarrassing as it is about this stuff, that they can come to you to talk to you about it. And that's what we try to want to be proactive about, is for them to know what to look out for, and for not to not fall into those traps, not to send people images of that stuff, because it never goes away, basically. So NECMEC is really good about providing us presentations that can be given to all age groups for that kind of stuff, that can educate them better on that.
Anything more?
Thank you for your efforts, Detective Barris. Continuing fruitfully.
I have a question that's kind of personal, and I don't know that I even expect an answer, but for a long time I was involved in an organization that trained counselors. And there are some kinds of counseling where you simply have to give people time away, counselors time away from their work, because it's very stressful. How do you handle all of that ugliness?
Yeah, it's a difficult thing. In a lot of our training, they stress the mental health part about it. I have a strong support network. I have a strong support network at home and at work. We have a strong peer support at our work, and people, they know that I'm investigating these things, and they will ask me how I'm doing and how if they can help with anything, and I appreciate that. That's why I want to raise more awareness with mental health in general with law enforcement, and make sure that we are provided with the necessary counseling that we can get within any jurisdiction. That's very important. And so it's just recognizing the fact that if you are having an issue, to know that you need to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And seek out that counseling is a big thing.
Some major organizations that do counseling, for that kind of work, they would say every fifth year off. You just can't deal with it constantly for long periods of time. Well, we all appreciate what you're doing, and if you need additional support that could come from the commission, you just make sure that the chief and the rest of us know that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anything more? Thank you, Detective Barris.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
Good job. Fire service and law enforcement news updates. Well, our news reporter is ill, and so we will not have that this meeting. And we all wish him the very best. Approval of police department bills.
Thank you. In your package, you've got two sets of bills. The first was signed on September 27th from Commissioner Meek, and the second yesterday by Commissioner Hanson. A couple of items I want to point out to you that's related to one item that we bought. Our K9 vehicle, you might remember, I believe it was last month before, actually 2 months ago, brought forward the cost of converting over vehicles, just for your awareness. You may notice that this conversion is a little bit higher. That's due to there's some specialty equipment for the K9s, the K9 safety and just to do the K9 job in that vehicle. And so we did outfit it, so it came in at $16,559, so about $2,000 more than what we would have in a normal vehicle conversion. The fact that we've been having some issues with keeping our vehicles on the road because of mechanical failures, and the fact that we don't have a backup K9 vehicle caused us to consider keeping the old K9 vehicle, which is a 2017, but it's still in pretty good condition. But what we did is that we outfitted this vehicle so that, we added a couple extra equipment than we normally do, like a computer and the stuff to make the computer work, so that we can keep the old vehicle and its equipment as a spare. So if the K9 vehicle goes down, we still have a safe vehicle for the K9, and we can also use that for regular patrol if our regular patrol vehicles go down too. The good thing is that it costs a little bit, or even though it costs a little bit more, we tend to keep these vehicles a lot longer. Like I said, the other one's a 2017, and we're still using it. So I just wanted to point out that there is an increased cost, but I think we're going to get our bang for our buck out of that vehicle. This is the F-150, and we have a topper and cage, and some of that was purchased out of our K9 fund as well to help offset some of the costs. That's the only item of note that I noticed in the bills, but I would entertain any questions and look for your approval.
Any questions or comments for the chief concerning the bills from the police department?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion. We have a second to approve the police department bills. Need a roll call.
Hirschman?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Keo?
Yes. Motion carries. The bills are approved. Approval of the fire department bills. Chief Clement.
Thank you. You'll see in your packet the first set of bills approved by Commissioner Hirschman on September 27th. One thing to note on page 12B under Fire USA, you'll see some level B hazmat suits for $21.76. Just as a note that this is a reimbursable from the Marshfield Clinic hazmat call that was in May. Normally we don't bill that stuff out until we get it because it can change price sometimes, and we got to make sure it's the right stuff. So there's a little bit of a delay in that, and that's why. The second set of bills you'll see in there, President Keogh approved on October 11th. On page 12M, you'll note the down payment for the ambulance for $115,455, and that was the use of the state of Wisconsin Flex Grant monies. I would ask for your approval.
Motion to approve. Second.
That's the way we would have done it. Any comments or questions about the fire department bills? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote on the motion. Roll call, please.
Hirschman?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Keo?
Yes. Spending money is the easiest thing to do in business. Police department activities, training reports, and correspondence.
Thank you. As you can see, as you read through the activities, we've been fairly busy this month with, there's some community activities, there's been some strategizing, which was kind of exciting. We had the couple of preparation meetings for the building presentation, and we also had the MOU for our school district, I think, with the therapy dog. We had some meetings regarding that, which is an exciting program we'll talk about in a little bit. One thing I want to draw to your attention, on the 27th, we had a kickoff meeting for our new fleet cameras, the Axon cameras. There's some pretty exciting things with that. It has license plate reading capabilities, which is really cool. What it can do is automatically scan license plates, and if there's something flagged in the system, like if we have a stolen vehicle or we're looking for an endangered person or anything along those lines, the cameras will automatically read those plates and alert the officers. So it could be just driving down the road or going down the aisle of a store or whatever, parking lot of a store. So those are connected to another system called the Flock system, and this is something that I'd like to work towards in the future, but those are, they can be stationary cameras you can put up in the entrances to your cities or in high density population areas in your city, and it can do the same thing with that license plate reading, which can help find all kinds of missing people to wanted people and all kinds of things. So it's really starting to take off in our area. So our cameras will talk to the Flock system. So other area communities that have that, which is all of Marathon County, Wood County is about to launch some in the south end, and so we're starting to work towards some pretty exciting times that will probably take some bad people off the street, which is cool. In addition, I got to brag a little bit. On the 24th through the 27th, our K-9 officers went to a training where they became one of 43 teams in the United States that are able to detect the difference between marijuana and hemp. Hemp is legal. The only difference between marijuana and hemp is the amount of THC in the plant. And what happened is that our K-9 handlers and dogs were able to successfully complete the program, and our dogs can detect that there isn't enough THC essentially in the plant to be illegal, which is just amazing to me. And to be one of 43, it's a pilot program, and I'm real proud of those folks, and it's a lot of hard work and something to be really, really proud of, and a badge for our city. Those are the items that I noticed, or I wanted to highlight in our activities, and I would look for you to place on file if there's no questions.
I have one question. I noticed some vehicles have that darker plastic over there. Are you still able to detect?
It's actually illegal to have that, so we'd be able to stop the vehicle just for that if we needed to. I don't know for sure if the technology can read through it. I think those are things we're going to learn as we go through. Snow covering license plate would be another barrier, but we can stop for that as well. So it's not a perfect system, but it's certainly it's a pretty neat technology that we can have.
Because hear people talk about that, so yeah. So
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Any questions?
What's Operation Rush?
Rush is it's a drug interdiction type class. I can't remember what Rush stands for, but it's an acronym for something really cool. So
Quick, something
makes it easy to remember. It's actually a really good system, and it helps with impaired driving and drug interdiction stuff. So good patrolman.
And then can you kind of elaborate on what Officer Andrews was forward with?
I can. Thank you. Officer Andrews will receive the First Responder Award for the 86th District. And he was off duty and going home from north on 97 and came across a really nasty vehicle versus motorcycle crash where there was really significant injuries. Officer Andrews happened to have one or two tourniquets in his truck and administered first aid and likely saved a couple of lives by doing that. Officer Mitchell was on duty. He responded. It was out of our jurisdiction, but he responded as well. and helped Officer Hendries. But he was actually nominated by a couple of different agencies, ours and Marathon County, for that award, and he was selected and did receive it. Officer Hendries is extremely modest. I don't think he's happy with us that we did nominate him, but we're very proud of what he did, and we couldn't overlook it. He was selected. So.
RUSH stands for Recognizing and Understanding Substances on the Highway.
Thank you.
You bet. How's that?
And that's the situation, am I correct, where a person lost a limb?
I don't know if they lost it for sure, but I believe that it looked like they were going to lose their limb.
Yeah. Well, our congratulations to him as well from the commission, all right?
I will pass it on, and I don't know if you know Officer Hendries, but you usually don't have to guess what he's thinking. And he has made it very clear that he does not want a lot of accolades, but we're going to give it to him anyway.
Those are the kind of people that you want to get them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Update on proposed 2024 law enforcement budget.
Yes.
I'm sure this will be good news.
Well, I'll let you decide. So, from our proposed budget that we had through that the commission approved earlier this year, that was forwarded off to City Administrator Barg. The items in which Administrator Barg adjusted, I should say, before presenting to the council would be there was a $3,000 reduce in a temporary employee. And I should note that City Administrator Barg did discuss with me these items during the process. So the $3,000 reduced from temporary employee budget, there was $30,000 that was allocated in the event that we did obtain the Buffalo building. He removed that. And the discussion that I had with him is that the reason that we wanted that in there is because if we had the building, we would be able to maintain it and plow the sidewalks and keep the heat on, so to speak. He assured me that if we do obtain the building, that money would be available through contingency and that they would maintain the building if we get it. We had $15,000 in an investigative fund. There's some of that is placeholders in case we get into a long drawn out investigation where we have to buy materials or do things to do the investigation, purchasing to do the investigation. We kind of earmarked money for that. That fund also does the tipster money and our drug buy money. What we decided, actually Travis and I had a conversation with Steve Barg in this process, and we felt that $10,000 would be sufficient to do that. And the $5,000 we had earmarked for those larger investigations, should they happen and we run short, we could do with contingencies. So $5,000 was reduced from there. We had, for emergency management, we had staff overtime and Social Security attached to that. That's never been used. It was $1,600 for the overtime and $122 for the Social Security that's tied to it. That was removed. So essentially, if we take out the $30,000 from the building, we're looking at roughly $8,000 that he basically cut.
That's really not much.
Randy, do you see any problem in that process?
Well, I think part of it is there's a level of engagement with you and the city administrator, right? So I think it's multifactorial. You know, ideally, what would be nice is if the commission can make that decision on what to reduce in terms of the dollar amount.
So he called, the city administrator called you and said, we've got to do some adjusting in the budget, come on over and we'll talk through it, and this is what he suggested.
We have meetings, yeah.
That's our business.
I agree.
Madam Mayor. What he needs to do is tell the commission, you gotta take $30,000 out of that budget. And we decide where it comes from. He doesn't know. I'll talk to him. I've talked to him before, and he agreed he would not do that again.
Okay.
You know, just a follow-up to my comment, I just really think if you have this bucket of money, and as a commission, we decide where that bucket is spent, the city funds us, we should, you know, if they came across and said we need a 2% decrease, well, the commission should make that decision on where to allocate resources. Not any different from the fire department. I wouldn't expect Steve Bakos to have to come up with $50,000 from one specific line item. You know, it would have to be an overall thing. So, you know, ideally, that would be great.
That's the way it's supposed to be. Read the statute. This group is responsible for the administration and management of the police and fire departments. And it seems to me deciding what you're going to take out of a budget is part of that process. Have I made myself clear?
Yeah. You know,
there are some things that just drive me nuts.
I would have thought the number would have been larger looking at the financial stress that the city is experiencing, and I'm not saying that facetiously. The city has some challenges going forward, right? We got several things going on. In terms of our total budget, was about that much.
I agree.
You know, we can't argue with the city, and that's the Common Council, about how much money they have and how much they can afford to support the police and fire departments. That's their business, not ours. But how we spend the money they give to the police and fire departments is our business, not the city's. All right, listen, thank you for the report, and I'll talk with Administrator Barr. Approve memorandum of understanding between Marshfield Police Department and the Marshfield School District for the purpose of establishing and implementing a therapy dog program.
Okay. So ready?
What?
I thought you were going to say something else.
No. I tell you what was running through my mind is this is a program I've heard nothing but positive support for from whoever.
Yeah.
But I also think we went into it thinking there would be no cost, and all of a sudden there is.
We'll discuss that in a second.
Yeah, but go ahead with this. Is there any, it's been approved, the city attorney has read it, the school district's attorney has read it, and they've all made whatever changes they think are important.
The school district's attorney hasn't read this, but it's basically just following along with what they have suggested, so I don't anticipate any issues from the school. But so as Commissioner Keel indicated, we did introduce the idea of having a therapy dog a couple of months ago. We've developed an MOU and had Attorney Wolfgram review the MOU. It's his opinion that we don't need to clear the MOU through council at this point because there wasn't any real money tied to the MOU that the city would be responsible for. So with that, we could just clear it with the commission and move forward with it. FSLA rules, and I was aware of this, that we have to reimburse the handler for the amount of time that they spend caring for the dog, which is a half hour every day of the year. So with our current canine, what we do is, and it's in contract, is we pay them for 12 hours of work, but they only work 11 hours. Their schedule with the 12 hours that they work half the days of the year, and so we do the half-hour day by letting them off 1 hour each work day. That doesn't work as cleanly with our SROs because
he would, on an 8-hour schedule, we would have to cut off roughly 25 minutes every day. And with basically taking 10 minutes off of the first part of the day and then 15 off the last, or whatever combination you wanted to do, in my mind doesn't make a lot of sense, because it leaves the school without a police officer for very predictable times of the day, which I don't think is a good idea. We bounced off a couple of ideas on how to reimburse that 1 hour or half hour a day, and found that it probably needs to be looked further, because it's a reimbursement, and also it's potentially a contract issue that we need to address. I reached out to Attorney Wolfgram again to see if that changed the fact that we need to have this MOU go through council, the fact that we're paying back this half hour every day. And his opinion was that it didn't. The MOU can move forward, because all that is the agreement between us and the school to have the dog when we get the dog. So he felt that we could move forward with the MOU as it is. However, if the commission decides that we want to move forward with the project and reimburse SRO Klein for the half hour a day, that would ultimately have to be, whatever we come up with as an agreement would have to be approved through finance, budget, personnel, and the council. So the short story is that the MOU could move forward today, and then I would look for your guidance in how we proceed and how it should be reimbursed and how that affects our contract, if at all. So that's where we are with that.
Any comments or questions?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve that MOU. Roll call do we need? Yeah, go ahead.
Gershman,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Keel.
Yes.
And how should we move forward with looking into the reimbursement?
Well, clearly, and that's money. And that is the city's principal responsibility. What I would do, I guess, if I were in your shoes, I'd sit down with the city finance director and say, this is the situation we face. And we don't know for sure how to move forward with the city. I'm sure it'll go to the finance committee and ultimately the council. But I'd start with the finance director. Mayor, do you think that's I guess that...
Yeah, I did discuss part of that with Attorney Wolfgram.
Yeah.
And essentially he said that there is a potential of a contract, or I explained that there's a potential of a contract issue with it, and respectfully, he doesn't deal with the contracts very often. He said that he's willing to help if needed, but he suggested that we talk with HR.
Well, and that's fine. And talk with somebody so that they're not
right, but
caught short.
It's I foresee a potential of a union issue because the other canines.
Yeah.
So I guess there's. I don't know if I can talk with the union about what they want or how it should be, and that's what I'm asking.
Well, the city negotiates with the unions.
Okay.
And so ultimately, it's going to be the city administrator's decision about how to address that as a contract issue, I believe.
Okay. Is that something that the commission would like to be involved in, though?
I think we'd like to know what's going on.
Okay.
Be willing to sit in the meetings and so on. But that's a city decision, it seems to me. The idea of a therapy dog and all that's involved with that, the orbits of all of the parts of that, that's certainly our business. And everyone I've talked to is very much
I've had the same response.
in favor of it. So now what we do is we go to the people who handle the support of that program and ask them to figure out how to come up with whatever is needed. I will, for both of the chiefs, I will make a comment. I had a long conversation with city administrator in the last 48 hours. And I told him that I had sent you to check on that contract, MOU business. And he has no objection to that. He would have done the same thing. But he would like to know when either of the two of you go to HAP, not so that he can say no, but so that he can have the list in his head of what HAP's responsibilities are and the monthly bill. So, feel free when you think you have, check with me or check with Steve, but make sure that Steve somehow knows that you're doing it. That's only fair to him.
Yeah, the only comment I have is multi-factor. You're looking at a lot of moving targets on this, right? You're looking at changing work rules, reimbursing.
And equity with the other canines.
Equity with the other canines. So I think part of it is, from a financial standpoint, the number's going to be larger than you budgeted, I'm sure, because you're going to have to keep it equitable.
Yeah, it's, yes, if depending on which way it goes. If it's paid in a comp time basis, there has to be money. I know that it's not just free money to use comp time, but at the same time, it's not as impactful on the budget if it's used. If the comp time is used. If they go over their comp time limit, then there's a payment there.
And, so I think when it involves money, working relationships, that's going to have to go through finance and budget. I mean, we can sit here all day.
Yep, and that's what HAP said too. But I just want to make sure that we are in line that you
just
all
keep us updated.
Okay.
Yeah, it's important for us to know too. I mean, that's part of that. We're all part of the same system, and we all have basically the same objectives. It's just the mechanics of making it all happen.
I'll get started on it.
Sounds good to me. I think that's.
We can do a signing. I'm sorry to interrupt. We can do the signing of this after, or we can do it now, or whatever you.
Well, I got to panic. If people put something in front of me, I sign it.
Ooh, that's good to know.
Yeah, I got something here too.
If I can't trust what somebody puts in front of me, I best not work with them.
I agree.
Absolutely.
And there's a copy of this in your packets.
It's amazing to me how something so
Exactly.
Yeah, just
I watched it.
Thank you. I think it's a wonderful program, and it's. I'm glad we're moving forward. And what would the maximum dollar amount?
It's 180 hours. I mean, and it's for a year.
Yeah.
And so I think it's if you paid it out per wage, it could be pretty significant, right around 6,000, 6,500.
fully benefited too.
Yeah. There's a finance guy. But
To be honest with you, Jody, I don't think for the benefit that will come from the program that's a hell of a lot of money.
I was just about to say the same thing. I think I'm very proud, you probably guess this month seems to be canine month, but I'm very proud of our canine teams, and this will pay us back tenfold.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
All right, I'm sorry, I wanted to keep it to an hour, and we're going way the hell over, but that's part of the game. Fire department activities, I don't want to put any pressure on you, but hurry up.
Short and sweet. Another busy month with our promotional process, budget, responding to calls. We're on pace to have the second highest total in responses in the history of the department, just slightly behind last year. It was a busy month, and I'll be highlighting the promotional process later here. Any questions?
Questions from the commissioners? If there are none, do we need a motion or something?
We just
Yeah, we just accept and place on file. Thank you. Update on proposed 2024 fire department budgets. I will assume the same process for the fire department.
Yes.
What is the amount of reduction?
So on September 29th, I met with Administrator Barg. We started to go through the budget. I'll just give you as brief as I can. We started to go through the budget line by line. He had a bunch of questions with the budget, and I could pretty much defend everything that was in there. And then as the meeting went on, he asked me to reduce our CIP project. CIP 410-5838, that it was originally for the 9 firefighters for PPE and radios. That total was originally $70,820. He wanted to reduce it for just 3 firefighters, for the 3 firefighters that were projected, that's currently in the budget. Reduce that to $23,606.64. For a difference of $47,213.36. That was the first thing. And then he asked me to reduce my operating budgets, fire protection and fire prevention by $15,000. That's what he asked me to do, and I highlighted a few things that we either reduced or cut out of the budget.
So a total was $65,000.
The total reduction was $62,545.
Okay. And that was about what percentage of your budget? Just for both?
I did not do that math. I'm sorry.
Probably 2-3%.
Yeah. So I did, like I said, I did meet with him. And obviously, most of you probably know, October 10th, we had our first budget meeting that was presented in front of the council. Our budget, we really didn't have much for questions with our budget. At this point, I'm hopeful that the 3 firefighters will stay in the budget to get us back to the 2021 staffing levels. The only other one thing to note is that this last year for the budget, we had to enter everything into this new Munis system. So it was kind of just starting over with a whole new software. There was an error that was in it on the EMS budget. There was a couple entries that weren't in that, and we made note of it at the common council meeting. But one was for EMS supplies, and the other one was for oxygen that we noted to put back into the budget.
Any comments or questions from the commissioners? Hearing none, we'll go on to the next item on the agenda. Approval of the results of the Marshfield Fire and Rescue Department's promotional process for lieutenant, relief lieutenant, and first engineer.
Thank you. What I'm going to do is, if you want to fast forward, is I'm going to kind of combine 18, 19, and 20 together, if that's all right with you.
That would be fine.
Thank you. You're going to see on page 18A the results of the promotional process. We highlighted the promotional process that started in April and ended with these results. First engineer positions go to James Meyer, Bjorn Gilbertson, and Nate McNamara. For the assignment of relief lieutenant, where we currently have 2 openings, we'll be going to Zachary Miller and Matthew Karnowski. For lieutenant, we established an eligibility list. And the other thing is I want to publicly thank everyone that participated in the process. We had very positive feedback regarding our candidates. We have five different departments here doing the assessment center, along with Mid-State College, and then our HR department. So we had some very good feedback from that. I'd ask for your approval.
Can I make that one motion, 1819?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah, I'd like to do, as stated in 1819, I accept the motion for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
That's surprising.
Yeah, right.
Any further discussion, comments, or questions?
Just one comment. I liked the fact that it was competitive. I think that's a really good sign of help in an organization. The second one is, again, multiple applicants. So you're building up the middle and the top of your talent pool. And I'm really just happy for the department that it went that well. I think that's encouraging to me.
It is, and our overall demographics of the department is we have a pretty young department. So for us to be getting some of our younger members, seems like newer members, but they're not, 7, 8 years on, to get into some leadership and some mentoring positions is very important, and I'm really excited with the group that we have.
Oh, that's great.
Very quick question. Becoming an engineer in charge of a truck, basically, right?
Yes.
Is that a typical path for promotion, or is that something a guy would choose and that's where I want to be?
It's a little bit of both. In fire departments, there can be absolutely both, but normally it is a progression from engineer. You're getting more responsibility not only with the rig, but you're doing a lot more with people. There'll be things. It's not just with the rig, but it's managing people with projects that are out on the floor. So it is a stepping ground, but obviously there's some people that might want to just be at that level.
And that's always the case, but you can move from there.
Absolutely. That would be the best way that I would want the department to go, is people to keep bumping up and hitting it. Yeah. It's very healthy for an organization to have new people coming in different positions and everything, looking at difference.
Good.
Yep.
Well, we have a motion and a second, and discussion has occurred over 3 items on the agenda, 18, 19, and 20. We need a roll call, so when you vote, you're voting for all 3.
Okay, Gershman.
Yes.
Gibson.
Yes.
And Keo.
Yes.
Well, congratulations from us, please.
Please.
Absolutely.
Please. The next item is discuss and approve offering non-emergency transport contracts for nursing homes and community-based residence facilities. So you go ahead. I've had some chance to talk about this.
Okay.
I'll be back in a few moments.
Thank you. Before I start on this item, let DC Bacus do the presentations of the guts on this. I want to make sure that commission, staff, general public understands that the fire department, we're not looking at this as an expansion of services. We're looking at this as the effort to reduce our bad debt liability through this. Currently, right now, for the ambulance calls and stuff, this is something that we do, but we're not getting reimbursed for. So with that, I'll let Steve start and we'll go from there.
Thank you. So as a commission as well, we transport from nursing homes to the emergency room daily, from the community-based residential facilities and from nursing homes. Quite often, these patients need to get transport back to where they live. For as long as I've been on the department, we've always done those transports. In the last couple of years, working very closely with finance, we identified that quite a few of these transports were not being reimbursed because Medicare, if it is not medically necessary, they will not pay us for them. You cannot bill a Medicare patient for these, so it basically becomes a write-off. Looking at different options and what we can do, I did talk with the larger nursing homes we have in town to see if they would even be open to the idea, and they, not surprisingly, they were. When you look at the system, these patients do need to get transported back to their home. Sometimes they can't just get put in a taxi. They don't have family around. These facilities many times do not have staff or even transport to get them from the ER back. That's why they call us. We definitely have been getting pushback because at times we have turned these down in the last couple of years, understanding that if we did the transport, we knew it was going to be written off. So this really is beneficial for everybody involved, being able to offer this contract. So it would help all the patients obviously get back to where they live. The facilities, it counts towards their census, so it helps them to get the patient back sooner. The ER definitely wants these patients out of their ER because they are very busy and they need the bed space. So it becomes a win-win. We get guaranteed payment for something we've already been doing. And at least I think it's just good all around. I have submitted this to the city attorney to review. I just got the email back yesterday from Administrator Barg. The attorney didn't have any real objections to it. I used a contract we currently use as the basis, so it went through pretty smooth. Just indicating that the PFC would be the one to sign off on this in the email. So if you guys approve this, I could then take it to the facilities and offer this as an option.
So Steve, you're my resident expert today, so I'm asking you all the questions. So when the public looks at this, it's non-emergent transport from somewhere back to the CBRF, right?
Correct.
Okay, so a person normally they couldn't take a taxi for whatever reason, but it's not medically necessary. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So has there any thought to saying, when the public looks at us, they know we're shorthanded, we know we're shorthanded, you know we're shorthanded. Is this a service that we could look at abandoning? I'm just asking the question. Just say to yourself, maybe this is something we shouldn't provide anymore, have private industry do it. So that's really, because it's a reasonable question, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
And I'll address that by a real life scenario. So Ambu vans or something like that, like there are companies out there that do that, that do things that move patients around, and we encourage that. So when we get a call from a CBRF or a nursing home that they have a patient that we took up, we ask them to reach out to those organizations if they're available to do that, 100%. We would rather have that go with that, those resources. But what we're finding is that, number one, nights and weekends, those services shut off. They're not around. So the thing that we'll get in a real life scenario, and this was a few years ago, so we're not blowing out HIPAA here, but we get called to a local facility for a patient there that had a flash rash. They think they're going in anaphylaxis. They think it's emergent. We take this patient up, goes up to the ER. They find that it's not anaphylaxis, it's nothing. And this patient needs to get back to the facility. They call me and I go, have you called? Do you have other transport? Are you able to do that? And they're like, taxi won't take a patient from the ER back to a facility. Those services are not available. I'm like, well, sorry, keep trying. We don't get paid for that, so sorry.
They often call us in those situations.
Yeah. So then we were talking to the ER and they're upset because they're like, what are we supposed to do with this patient? We can't admit them because this patient doesn't need to be admitted. We could admit them, maybe if the doctor would sign off on it, but then they have to pay the bill from maybe Friday night all the way to Monday morning when those vans or something like that are running. So we're caught into that. But we're trying to provide a service to the patient when the ambulances are here and we're available. Once again, can there be us out on that and then another call come in? Of course there can.
Just my biggest worry is I've had conversations with Steve in the past. You're always worried about overtime in your people. And, do you strap them on the gurney and haul them back in or have them sit up front? I'm just curious if they're, if it's non-emergent transport.
Sure.
You got two highly skilled guys and a $250,000.
Absolutely. So the way that I'm looking at this is that realistically, and it's hard because we have a bunch of different people in this community that look at what we do. We should be looking at it as a business. And when I came into this, I looked at this as a service, as what I want to do. And that's something that, obviously you guys give us direction on what we should be doing. What is it? I look at it like when this contract actually is mirrored over our fixed wing contract. Mm-hmm. So when a patient comes flying in here, they need transport from the airport to the hospital. Okay, it's a non-emergent. We do it, we schedule it, we do it when we can, but they need to go from there. It's a service that we provide to help people that are either, coming back, got hurt on vacation, and now they're coming back to this facility to come back home, or patients that were here that need to go out. So it's a service that we provide. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds with this, but the way I look too is that, we'll get calls from people that put their loved one in a car and go home, and then now they can't get that person out of the car into the house. Those are some of the things that we do. I know that the public understands that a lot of the services that we provide are not red light and siren, services. And if that's all that they want us to provide is red lights and siren services, our service level would go way down, and the public would not like that at all. So with this, we're looking at our plan A is for any other means for that patient to get back to the facility. That's our plan A.
Okay, so let me give you a follow-up. Steve,
Sure.
How many of those do you get a month? How many of those calls do you get that you actually respond to? Not say no, but
I would have to run a report, but quite a few.
I mean, like 10, 12?
I'd probably say return trips, 10 to 15.
Okay. Do you think we can abandon it, or do you think we need to do it?
No, I don't believe we should abandon it. And as far as the contract goes, just to add to what Interim Chief Clements was talking about, and make sure everybody's on the same page. When we have an ambulance out and these requests comes in, they get set aside, and we notify the ER. When we're available, we'll take it. So we will not cause overtime to take one of these.
Okay.
Now, where we might incur overtime is if they're on that call and another call comes in, you may incur overtime. The cost that we're requesting from the nursing homes, if they agree to a contract, we've built it enough to make sure that we cover that throughout the year. At least we believe so.
Okay, so that does change the dynamic, because basically you're not getting paid and you're doing it now. At least we'd get paid for something you're already doing. But my only concern is, like, I don't want to pay overtime. I don't want you to be short-staffed here. I don't want you to have to call in.
And the benefit of the contract too is that, let's say we do it for a year and we reevaluate and find out that there was enough overtime where actually we didn't make up our costs. We can adjust the rate in the contracts. So to make sure that we're covering our bases.
I think it's also, I think the other thing is I would just give them PD's number if you've got an issue. I'm just joking. I think in the end, until we see how you figure out the cost stuff and everything, Steve.
Yeah, so working with Jordan in finance, we tried to really narrow down how much it costs for a trip like this. The rough estimate amount of time, 2 crew members, again, not anticipating overtime. And using those numbers, again, also based off the numbers we use for our fixed wing transports, that's where we're starting right now.
Just one last question, I'm done, I'm sorry, but MCHS, are they going to be part of this group too, or is it just the CBRFs and the facilities?
No, this is a return trip from ER back to facilities.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, so obviously they're pushing, they're like, we need room in here, you need to pick them up. So
Yeah, the ER staff, it's not even the facility, it's the ER staff definitely wants their beds because they're so busy.
What about a trip to the clinic?
So as far as going to the ER, those are covered, and that's
No,
part of
not
our
ER.
response. You're
Not
talking about
ER.
like at a doctor appointment?
Yeah.
We have occasionally taken those. This contract would not address those. And that again would have to be, as far as payment goes, something we want to work out ahead of time.
So would you want to expand it? He brought up a really good point. Would you want to expand it to include that just in the off chance that you have to take a patient?
No, because again, that would be expanding, causing more overtime. No.
Okay, good. All right. I'm glad that you're thinking that way.
And the reason I asked that question is I have a neighbor who's been in a wheelchair for 6 years now. And of course, the problem for those kinds of individuals is infections, particularly bone infections, which take forever to heal. So now he's in the facility down on 14th or whatever that is, H. He has to be he can't ride, and so an ambulance takes him to.
And that would be medically necessary if he has to remain flat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
those typical appointments, again, just pointing out, they're scheduled doctor appointments, so usually the vans are running at that time. The ones that we've taken are specialty, for example, bariatric patients, where they need a large cot to transport.
Oh, boy, that'd be tough.
I'll make the motion to approve. I think you need approval.
Do we have a second? Second. So we have a motion and a second to approve the non-emergency transport contracts to nursing homes and community-based residential facilities. We've had discussion. Is there anything in addition?
Just to point out, this is the ability to offer to them. So if I do get a facility that's interested, I would have the commission then approve that contract.
That's fine. That sounds.
Yeah, the memo on that was pretty clear, so that's good. Thank you.
Yeah. So we need a roll call vote.
Gershman?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Keo?
Yes. Are there any items for future meetings that you'd like to bring forward now so we're sure we get them on the agenda? Okay, there are none. Is there any other business for the assembly? Robert says if it's questioned and there is none, the chair has the authority to adjourn. We're adjourned.